over the last just year or two, especially with the crazy storms in North Carolina and now what's happening in California, I believe that many people, maybe even a majority, are now realizing that weather control technology is not a crazy theory. It's a very real thing, and it is being weaponized and deployed against us, we the people. And no one knows that better than our guest today, Dane Wigington.
First, for a very long time, actually since 2005 or 2006, in the U.S. West Coast, the climate engineering operations were ramped up to a point where they were radically affecting the hydrological cycle here. And that has, over that time, set the stage for the ever-increasing burn downs. But what is establishing the conditions for these fires to burn with such ferocity? So when you have a now radically fluctuating hydrological cycle, drought deluge scenarios, when the rain that does fall is toxic, and we know it's toxic because we're testing it, elements like aluminum, baryum, strontium, manganese, polymer fibers, surfactants, graphene, aluminum being toxic to all life forms, period, so it kills soil microbiome as well. But we know root systems shut down nutrient uptake when they encounter this toxin. So they're dying a slow, protracted death. And let's look at the areas burning right now. They've had, I think, 1/4 of an inch of rain since last May.
Oh my, that's crazy.
That is absolutely a direct result of climate intervention operations. And Mike, that's exactly the kind of preparation that is talked about in U.S. military documents that we found and located and posted at geoengineeringwatch.org that speak of using wildfires as a military weapon to prepare areas to be vulnerable to firestorms. But aluminum, as I know you know, is such an effective incendiary, aluminum nanoparticles, that it's the primary element in demolitions and thermite. The preparations for what just happened and is ongoing in LA, not just the drying out of the entire region, not just the coating of that entire region for how many months, I mean the better part of a year, coating those regions with a dust, literally an incendiary dust. And now the winds, and that's very key. Many people are programmed to believe that nothing man can do could possibly affect surface wind flows. That couldn't be further from the truth. And in this type of manner, they can and absolutely are creating surface wind flows. And the same is true in Lahaina. Mike, you remember in Lahaina, you had an extremely, meteorologists call it an extremely anomalous high pressure zone to the north of Maui in that case. And you had an extremely anomalous low pressure zone to the south, Hurricane Dora, that had an almost record length track. So Dora's spinning counterclockwise, the high pressure zone spinning clockwise, and the gradient between those two, Lahaina was not in the direct wind field of either atmospheric pressure zone, but in the zone between the two, you create a wind tunnel. Thus you create a blowtorch, a bellows effect. And that radically, because you're pumping air into the fire, it radically increases temperatures. And it's tough to escape. And I'll leave it with this, Mike. And even on top of all that, we are definitely seeing structures ignited on the inside before the fires even reach the structure.
Now, whoa. What are you saying?
Here's this is all I'm saying. That we know in the case of smart meters, we know that they start fires. There are lawsuits because of it. It's not speculation. Your listeners can look this up. I was shown in the Car Fire in Northern California, an affluent neighborhood that burnt to the ground here. An owner tracked me down to show me pictures when they were leaving the neighborhood. The neighborhood was evacuated. It was empty. The Car Fire had not reached that neighborhood yet. Neighborhood was empty, and as they were leaving, they spotted and they were the last ones to leave the neighborhood, they spotted in their neighbor's front window flames inside that house. They took pictures of those flames looking in the front door. They showed me those pictures. And smart meters can absolutely positively ignite a fire, whether intentionally or otherwise. And as an example for this, Mike, let's consider how many pagers and cell phones were remotely detonated, killing how many people in the Middle East?
Yeah, well, thousands. I mean,
yes,
injuring thousands.
Yes, so they can do that. Anybody who thinks that they can't use a much larger and more capable instrument like a smart meter to ignite a fire? Of course it's possible. And all they would need to do, if you had a fire progressing through, for example, Pacific Palisades, all that would need to happen is a few strategic ignitions in homes. And I've seen pictures of homes there with flames coming out the windows and no fire anywhere in the perimeter. Something's wrong here. And all they would need is a few strategic ignitions to carry that 100-mile-an-hour blowtorch through the entire region. And even if only 1 out of 10 actually functioned and caused a detonation, which takes time for a slow burn like that, they would need a very small success rate to actually, of the individual ignitions, to actually accomplish the overall objective. So I'm saying there's a lot of things wrong here. There's nothing natural about this. And there are things that are very scientifically provable. This is not speculation.